All right, well, hello and welcome to my digital town hall conversation. Today we're having a conversation about programs that support high school students as they transition to college, technical training programs, or further education in other ways, particularly first generation students. We're filming from the Mosaic Center here at the University of Vermont, and I'm happy to be joined by Rick Dalton, the founder and president and CEO of College for Every Student, CFES, Brilliant Pathways, and Jadine Santos or Santos?
Either or.
All right. Student Services Advisor for the Mosaic Center for Students of Color at UVM. And I want to mention that along with the conversation today, we'll focus primarily on college as a tool to becoming career ready. But also next month, I'm going to be having a digital town hall at the Central Vermont Career Center and focus more on some of the technical training opportunities for those who aren't going to go on to college, but still have great opportunities in technical arenas like plumbing, electrical, carpentry, where you can certainly make a good quality living as well. Because we had a great focus, I think, in the last number of years on college as a pathway to economic stability and prosperity. But actually, we're also seeing a lot of folks who maybe could get decent careers not in that direction. And we want to make sure everyone's included as they finish high school and sort of what some of the opportunities are to make a good living. Janine, you were one of the first students to come to UVM from a partnership school in the Bronx, orchestrated by CFES. It helped pave the way for other students of color to come to UVM and move UVM's diversity rate from, I think when you were first here, at about 4% in 2001 to over 12% today. Can you tell us about that experience for you, the fact that you've stayed, and some of the challenges that first generation students that you work with face, and what's it like to, first of all, even apply to going to college or higher education, and then even once you get in, how does it work, and so forth?
There's a lot there. So I'm surprised that I came to UVM at all.
Yeah.
Because I would never considered a school out of the state. I was going to go to college. I knew that for sure. My parents told me that's what you're going to do throughout high school. So I said, okay, I will figure that out.
So good parent support.
Great parent
Another
support.
piece of the equation.
Essential.
Yeah.
So I knew that wasn't an option. I was going to college. But really, where was it open for me? So I was looking at SUNY schools, State University of New York, and I was looking at CUNY schools, City University of New York.
Right.
This was the only out-of-school college, out-of-state
Wow.
college, that I applied for. And it was through the partnership program that I even thought about it and considered it. And our guidance counselors at the time were really kind of pushing UVM, saying think about it. And all of us were kind of saying, no, not really sure about Vermont. We don't know what Vermont is. None of us have ever been there.
Right.
But UVM was really great, and they brought in college students and talked to us about what it's like, and there were students of color coming into our high school to tell us about their experience and what UVM could offer us. And then there were visit programs, free visit programs, which were really important.
So they paid for your travel to stay here for a day or two while you toured the campus?
Exactly. They paid for plane tickets, and it was with a partnership with JetBlue. So JetBlue gave us all free tickets to come here for 2 nights, and UVM has this really great program. So we got to stay in a residence hall room with another student and attend a class and talk to college advisors and really feel what it's like to be a UVM student from a Sunday through Tuesday.
Fair enough.
Yes.
So do you think without UVM or other schools, we'll get to you in a minute, Rick, doing this fairly aggressive program to really try to wrap around and bring people in, do you think without that wouldn't happen?
Yeah, it would have been really hard to come to UVM without knowing what I was getting myself into. And we came back again in the fall, in the spring, when we were admitted. And there was a spring visit program where they flew our parents up as well. And so we came to see the university with our parents, went to an admitted student visit day, had that experience again, and that's when we said, okay, this might be it, as long as financially it's okay, as long as we can afford it. And so at that point, we started looking at packages, and UVM came in as close, or actually better than the state university colleges.
Really?
Nothing near the city university schools, but my option was, okay, so I'm going to go to a city school and stay at home, or go away, and staying at home wasn't an option for me. Yes, I really wanted to get away from New York City and experience a more traditional college environment, and I definitely got that here, but it was hard. First year at UVM was only 4% students of color.
Well, I was going to ask about that.
There were 13 of us from my high school that came, so we had each other for support, but there wasn't much here. So we had culture shock. A lot of us were just like, what is this place? It's really white.
Well, not only the university was really white, but Burlington as a whole, Vermont much more so.
It's a different place.
Can you even maybe tell a story or come up with an example of what that really means. I mean, we are, 17 years later. I think our society, not only Vermont, but the country is, many, not everybody, are really evaluating our work towards becoming more awoke, as it were. And the different advantages some people have and others don't, not necessarily all equal advantages and disadvantages. It's a spectrum of different circumstances. But what's a day-to-day situation that someone who looks like me and someone who has family lineage that's had college, and where it's just an expectation and they can flow into this atmosphere comfortably, what might be some of those things that are uncomfortable, either from your experience or that you're working with kids now that they're facing?
Yeah, a lot of what the students are facing now are similar to what I faced then.
Okay.
So going to a class, say a class of 150 students, they might be the only person of color in that classroom.
Right.
And if you came from New York City, your classroom's pretty much all students of color with a few white students in there. So it's such a different experience to feel like I'm alone. There's nobody that looks like me. My professor doesn't look like me. Other students don't understand me.
Their
And then
experiences are different.
so different. And then there's stereotypes that follow that. So although people want to be open-minded, sometimes they don't know that they're being rude. If they ask a question like, where are you from? Like, really, where are you from? You know, like when they want to ask about like race or ethnicity, like students feel like I'm different. They're treating me like I'm different and I don't belong. Or when the weekend comes around and they're a low-income student, they can't go out and go like eat at restaurants and go to the clubs because they don't have money to do that.
So when friends say, hey, come along, you're like, and you sort of almost have to come up with an excuse why not to, because you don't want to discuss financial differences and so forth.
Or they might have to have a job on the weekends and they don't have free time because they have to pay for their own books, or they owe UVM a big bill and they have to pay that bill, and their family can't do it because they're extremely low income. And so it's up to the student to figure it all out and manage like how to be here. And then also just like feeling homesick because everything is different. And that transition of like your family can't like tell you how to figure it out. Students come here with like low social capital for like navigating university setting. And their family, they can't say like, well, just go talk to the registrar's office and go to financial aid and go to your faculty. Like they don't know. And so a lot of times they go into like this like freezing mode, like I don't know what to do with this problem I have. And so thankfully there's people like me around who can say, okay, this is how you handle this situation, because I've been there. Like I've been first generation low income student from an urban area. Like I understand what it's like to try to navigate UVM or a place that's so different from home, and college in general. And I feel like it's not only students of color facing that, but all first generation students. It's the only difference really is just like the racial, ethnic like biases that they might face.
It's an additional challenge,
Yes.
but there's a lot of first generation folks who face some of those challenges in terms of how do you flow through the university setting, the assumptions that some faculty or fellow students or administration folks might have of, oh, you know how to do that, just go over there. You know, it's like, well, I can get you everywhere on a subway in New York City,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Where some folks up here might feel totally lost in a city. I'm sort of trying to come up with or think of a not really equal parallel at all, but that idea of feeling lost, and how sometimes Vermonters might go to a Boston or New York and be overwhelmed by what a city is. It isn't because of any one thing. It's the experience when I was growing up is different than that experience.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And maybe, Rick, you could give us some thoughts about why you got into starting a program like this, and what did it take, and what jumped into your body or mind that said, we need to tackle this challenge and bring down some of the hurdles that folks are facing as first generation students. What led you to get into that?
Well, let me say first off that Jadine, and she's heard me say this before, but how heroic she is. And being one of the first 13, and CFES was part of this, and we were sort of watching how these students were doing, and the fact that through lots of difficulty, lots of challenge. I mean, the easy thing would have been to say, I'm going home. But you didn't, and because of that, I think that there are literally a couple hundred kids that came to UVM as a result, and now you're in an advising, supporting role. So I think hats off to you, and just the extraordinary mentoring that you have done in so many ways over the last 18 years.
It's life-changing for a lot of
Yeah,
people.
it
Probably
really
was
is.
for you.
Yes.
And you could probably even reflect on that with them. Sometimes in my role, in the political role, you do big policies. You don't always get individual experiences where you've felt like you've really impacted someone's life. It must be pretty fulfilling for you. Well, for you with what you've done, and then with you in terms of each 13, 20, 50 folks that are coming to UVM each year, maybe the numbers are higher than that, where you're helping them see great opportunities, and hopefully without losing track of who they are, right? I mean, I wonder if some feel like, am I losing who I was by shifting into this other world and so forth? So it must be very rewarding,
great
frankly, for
point,
both of you. But
Well,
yeah, how did you?
So I was at Middlebury College, and I mean, there were things that happened before Middlebury, but my responsibility was diversity, and I worked with Olin Robeson and others to help with the diversity and to bring young people of color to Middlebury, and there was initially this, why would young people want to come here from urban areas and other places? And as long as you say that and believe that they wouldn't, you could never change the landscape and shift the paradigm. So we gathered a team of people. We were able to make some significant gains. We set up a partnership with another high school in the Bronx, DeWitt Clinton, and we had dozens and dozens of kids that came to Middlebury. And after 3 years, I thought, okay, we're helping dozens and dozens and maybe a couple of hundred. The need is so great for colleges as well as young people. How could I do this on a larger scale?
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to have a friend from graduate school who funded me for 2 years and started CFES. And in almost 30 years, we've helped 100,000 kids.
100,000
100,000.
kids. I just have to repeat
Yeah.
that number. That's
Yeah.
impressive.
First gen, low income, go to college.
And is that primarily rural and urban as opposed to suburban, or is it
it's-
all three equally?
It's
or?
not a whole lot of suburban.
I would think,
It's
yeah.
urban and rural.
Yeah.
About 2/3 urban, 1/3 rural.
Yeah.
And our office now, we used to be in Middlebury, we've moved across Lake Champlain into Essex.
Mhm.
And there's a little bit of an irony because when I would travel in the past, people would say, oh, Vermont, you must be from a small town, and how many cows in your backyard, and those sorts of things. And we moved over to Essex, and people assume if you're outside the Northeast and they don't know Essex,
The
New
scale
York,
of New York's breadth of reality.
that you're in an urban area, and
Right.
here we have 600 people in the community. So we deal with a very rural setting and kids who are from rural schools across the Adirondacks. But we're still in the Bronx, and we're in Brooklyn, we're in Manhattan, we're in 30 states. And we see rural kids as facing today more struggles than urban kids.
I was going to ask a little bit about that because Vermont has one of the highest high school graduation rates in the country. We're last in New England and 42nd in the country for then folks continuing on to higher education or college. How can that be addressed? You're expressing maybe there's some
Sure.
sadly almost bigger hurdles now for rural areas. Was that the case 15 years ago, or do you feel like that's been shifting?
I think that there are that the hurdles are and the obstacles are greater today than they were 15 years ago for rural kids. And I think that urban kids, if you're in an urban school, you have Teach for America, you have new people, young people coming in and programs, nonprofits that are there to support you. If you're from many rural areas in the Northeast, what you have, and Vermont of course sees this, decreasing population, an aging population. And what we see in our Adirondack schools is in the last 15 years, using that as the marker, most of the schools have half as many students as they did, again, 15 years ago. And
So they've seen a bigger decline in the Adirondacks than we've seen in Vermont.
Exactly, yeah. And so, that's a jobs thing, and there are a whole lot of issues.
There's a
there.
lot of issues. We could go on a whole nother show about
Sure.
that, but I've tried to point out to a lot of folks who have watched this or read some of my newsletters that the decline of young people is not a Vermont or blue state problem. It's a rural problem. You can go to the rural parts of the reddest states out there, and the youth are leaving those areas. Either folks aren't having as many kids, and on top of that,
Sure.
young people are moving to urban and suburban areas. We sometimes have a bigger visibility of that because we don't have the urban area that they're moving to. So as a state, we're seeing a decline in population in a way that a New York might not, or a red rural state with a big city might not, because they moved to their own metropolis.
Right.
But it's interesting to hear for me, and just I think for some of our viewers to hear, upstate New York, almost a bigger decline than we're having here.
A bigger decline.
Okay.
And so what we're seeing is you have half as many students, so you don't have new programs, you don't have sort of new blood, you don't have AP courses, you don't have the sort of advantages in terms of academic study, in terms of cultural diversity, in terms of just activities. And as a result, and I think that this is a huge part of it, you see more risk behaviors, and we're seeing lower aspirations in our rural communities, our rural schools, than in our urban schools. And you see many families who realize that if my son or daughter goes to college, goes to University of Vermont, or goes to SUNY Plattsburgh, or goes to Columbia, or goes to Middlebury, my son or daughter is probably not going to come back to our community. So there's a sense of we want you to stay here and to be part of the sort of the generational family.
Well, it's like a different barrier to going to higher education. It's actually like, don't go because we're going to lose you.
Absolutely.
As opposed to go, and then you could come back with knowledge and opportunity maybe that could help our community.
And this is at a time when young people need college more than ever. And those who are in the trades need college, but and college isn't just 4 years, live in a dorm. It's 2 years, and maybe 2 years, a 2-year degree takes you 4 years, which is great. Or it may be a credential or a license or something else of value. And anyone who's getting ready to graduate, or way before getting ready to graduate, needs to be thinking about post-secondary study. You need to be a lifelong learner, whether you're a farmer or a plumber or an electrician.
Well, systems are changing. I mean,
Systems
electricians
are
weren't
changing.
installing gazillions of solar panels and solar systems and
Exactly.
rewiring, and now we're learning that. So what does CFES do? You mentioned some of it with UVM, but what does it do with students in school to get them college or career ready? What is the nut of how you do that?
Well, here's the expert, perhaps more than I. But, we have mentoring for all of our students. We help them in terms of understanding how to move down the pathway. How do you get to college? How do you pay for college? What are the options? And again, David, as you said, in this world of exponential change, what was true for kids 15 years ago doesn't work. The script has to be different. And then the third sort of practice for us is essential skills. And we are big into these essential skills. And they're skills like perseverance and grit, agility, networking, teamwork, leadership. We looked at our students, and we do this
Some of
every
those
year.
things come from confidence, right?
Sure.
I mean, grit is, I didn't quite get there,
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Sure.
Versus, I didn't quite get there, I'm gonna grit my teeth and get it done.
But it helps if you see other people who look like you,
Right.
who've gotten it done, who've kind of fought their way through and have said, I'm going to get over that obstacle no matter what.
Yeah.
So we looked at our students who have been successful, and one of the things we saw is that it wasn't necessarily the smartest kids with the best grades. It wasn't the kids who had the financial support, maybe their grandmother or an uncle. It was the kids who had these essential skills. So we have taken on this whole, how do we help our young people better develop these skills? And it's role models and people who look like them from their neighborhoods, from their communities, who were successful. Let's expose those kids to our kids in our program.
And do you primarily work with certain schools, either in urban areas or rural areas, or if a young person learns about you, can they reach out and find out ways to access the mentorship or the process systems that you help with? And if so, how would they reach you? What would be an email or website or a phone number to either find out the general program or the one at UVM?
Oh, for UVM, they can just go on our website, the Mosaic Center for Students of Color, and it's like uvm.edu/MCSC.
Maybe a little slower.
uvm.edu/MCSC, or go to UVM's main page, A through Z, and find Mosaic,
Okay.
and you'll find us there. And so our contact information is there. Students can reach out to anyone on our staff and just set up time to talk on the phone, come in, we can give you a tour of campus, we can talk about what it's really like if you're thinking about UVM, and like if you're a person of color, you're thinking about the challenges that can be here, we can talk to you about it. And we're real with all of our prospective students and say, it's not easy, but we can help you figure it out. We have a lot of students who have navigated UVM successfully and they're happy here.
And what about first generation Vermonters who may not be of color,
Yeah.
but still don't have that knowledge? Would it be through the Mosaic Center or a different
I
part
think Trio is probably great for
Trio
them.
is great for them?
Trio,
Okay.
SSS.
Great.
And they're actually just located down the hall from our center.
Right, so you all know each other
Yeah,
and
we do.
coordinate
We're all
well
friends,
and so
yeah.
forth.
Yes.
Excellent, yeah. Because not everyone, again, is either of one demographic or another, and clearly there's a lot of different folks who could use some of that support to figure out how to navigate. And also, it sounds like with you, UVM had a lot of financial support, because sometimes Vermonters as well go, whoa, the price tag at UVM is really high. And when one looks deeper into that, which most people don't have the time to do, there's a price tag here, so those that can afford it will pay it to help fund the institution. But UVM has a tremendous amount of financial aid, if I'm not mistaken, particularly for first-time students. Is that
For
accurate?
Vermonters, there's the
Yeah.
Catamount Commitment Program. So Pell-eligible Vermonters who get into UVM have their tuition and comprehensive fees covered by scholarships and grants.
Yeah.
So if they live on campus, they're just responsible for room and board. If they live at home, it's pretty much a free ride.
Mhm.
And so it works really great, and we take care of those students. So it's for first-generation college students, low-income students. So they have extra eyes on them, a lot of extra eyes.
Mhm.
And so they get mentoring, they have the group aspect of like social support. Other students coming from Vermont high schools trying to navigate life at UVM, they're all together in their cohort. And so they can like support each other, and then they have like the staff, faculty looking out for them, making sure that they're doing what they need to do, and making sure that like anything that comes up, barriers along the way are taken care of. Like we want to make sure like barriers are knocked down. Our students can all like access what UVM has. A lot of students don't know how to ask for help, and so programs like this kind of you're going to get help from us. We're going to be looking out for you and making sure you're okay.
And we're just about UVM in particular. So CFES, is that something that folks contact mostly through their high schools,
It's
or
most-
can they contact you
Well,
nationally?
it's
or?
mostly through their schools, and we work in elementary, middle, and high schools.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So, once we work with the school, then all of those students, or a significant number, become part of CFES. We call them CFES scholars. They get all of the services and opportunities. But if anyone, any of your viewers have an
Right.
interest in the sort of services that we can provide, give us a call.
And that, so also either guidance counselors or others, if they don't have this system at their school, would that be the person you would work through as either a principal or a guidance counselor or an individial teacher?
We'd figure it out, and it could be different at one school versus another. Our plan is to work with next year 5 Vermont schools. So we're looking to raise the funds that are needed to make that happen, and we're doing a gala this summer, and every dime we raise will go toward Vermont and Adirondack schools, so North Country schools. We're committed to get across the lake into Vermont.
And just because I really don't understand all the details, does a certain high school or school that you work with then get affiliated with a certain university, or can folks that go through the program in high school end up becoming affiliated or go to any number of colleges or universities?
Any number.
Okay.
And we have partners. We have 200 sort of college and university partners, and I should say that UVM is at the top of the list. Just an extraordinary partner of ours. And we've worked together for many years, and together have been part of some life-changing experiences for students. But we work with Castleton, we work with Middlebury, we work with obviously the University of Vermont, across the lake, we work with Plattsburgh and Clinton and others, and then colleges and universities in 40 other states. So all of those resources and opportunities are available to our kids.
And I guess on a slightly different take, but after graduation, Vermont as a university, predominantly white, as a state, predominantly white, Burlington, Winooski, a bit more diverse than maybe if you get out to other parts of the state, but as a whole, a lot of these folks, how do you get them to stay? Are there, I tend to think most people who are 21 or 22 want similar things in terms of joys in life or opportunities along with job opportunities, but are there certain things that we can do as a state to help keep young people here? We're trying to both keep young people that are from here. We're trying to attract young people to stay here. We were discussing sort of the rural challenges that are happening all across the country. So what can we do in Vermont after folks graduate to
That's a good question.
try to help?
I'm thinking like the students that I work with, a lot of them are questioning if Vermont is a home for them, and they're really not sure until they get to that point of senior year and say like, can I still live here, or do I need to like run? And we see both. Like some students are open to staying here because they know there are more opportunities here than say New York City. There are more jobs in Vermont than New York City. Surprisingly, it's a lot harder to get a job. But if they go back to say New York, they have family, they get free housing, they get free food, their bills are covered, and if they're here, they need to do this on their own.
Yeah.
So what a lot of our students would need is like a grant to just start them off, like first month rent or something, like a place to just get on their feet, figure it out, and then start working.
But are there good job fairs that come to UVM and help some of the folks find jobs?
We have a career center here, and they're amazing. They have these huge job fairs, and it's mostly all Vermont jobs.
Yeah.
So I had some students that were there a few weeks ago at the job fair and looking for jobs. Like, I don't want a Vermont job. I don't want to stay in Vermont. So where do I look? I'm like, oh, like your options are a bit limited, but there are a few that you can look at. But for you, you might have to go to the city that you're looking at and go to a job fair there.
Right.
Because it's harder. Like we are like trying to get Vermonters to stay in Vermont.
Right.
Because there are opportunities here, but it's hard to live here.
Well, my nephew came from Washington, D.C. and got an engineering degree and got an engineering job in Colchester, and he's sticking around for a
There you
while.
go.
He loves it up there. But, it doesn't work for everyone, and but we've added a little bit of new bodies here. Now, we've also heard about some state colleges or colleges in the state, small ones, closing. And Green Mountain College, Southern Vermont College, College of St. Joseph. It's really an epidemic, and it's an epidemic that's not just in Vermont, as my understanding is this is symbolic of small schools closing all across the country. Is CFES or VSAC, state loan student loan program, enough to keep other state colleges from closing? I mean, the numbers, you talk about 100,000 kids, but that's also over 20 odd years. Not maybe fully in your bailiwick, but do you feel like your program could help keep some of these schools in the future from having to close if we could get these programs expanded and more kids coming to these schools?
I think no question about it. Why colleges are closing, and especially small private colleges, and even some small public colleges and universities closing or merging. This is a tough time for higher education, and again, it's part of exponential change. It's the learning, it's the jobs, it's yesterday's model doesn't work today, and it can be hard for a higher ed institution to make that shift. You talk about the ocean freighter turning a corner, and that's what we're asking higher ed to do. But again, that's another show. I think, but it is, and it's fascinating to me what's going on, and I think we're going to see more of it, unless the issue is addressed. Now, what can colleges do? John Rydell did his PhD here at the University of Vermont on rural kids going to college, and one of the things that John found is that there is this sector of young people that are not going to college, And it's not because they aren't prepared, they don't have the ability, it's because they don't know how to move down that pathway. So if we can help more kids understand, and it really is pretty simple, so that through CFES, VSAC, and college university partnerships, we can expose more kids to college, we can help them, as Jadine did, when she was in the Bronx and came up here, and UVM came down there to help her and her peers understand how to move down that pathway. If we could do more of that, there are enough students in Vermont and other parts of the Northeast that would go to some of these places that are teetering at this point. So, absolutely. And again, I think that there are huge numbers of kids that will not go to college who would be well served if they did. And it may not be the 4-year residential, it may be the 2-year, it may be some sort of continuing ed, it may be, again, it may be a different approach, a different model. But the kids are there. We need to help the young people understand how they connect, where the value is, and there is huge value. Again, I believe that every kid is graduating from a high school in Vermont needs to be thinking about some sort of post-secondary learning experience.
I was thinking about a highway, and it's almost like there's two different on-ramps to higher education. One that's paved and smooth, and families are comfortable and know the route and just take the exit. And the other one is rocky and under construction, and there's boulders, and to navigate it is much more difficult. And some of the work you're doing is trying to help smooth that bumpy road for those first timers. That may not be a metaphor that works, but
I think it works very well. But I think that second highway is getting larger.
That's right.
I mean, it was narrow, and now there are more and more kids that are on that highway or need to get on that highway.
Any last thought you want to add before we have to wrap up our program today?
Think about college, yeah, like this is not only just to come and learn about an academic subject, but to grow as a person. Like students come here and learn who they are and what matters to them and what they want to do with their life. They don't come in saying, I want to be a doctor, or they might, but coming through this process, you go, I actually want to be an artist. And how do I make that work?
I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I didn't end up a doctor after a year and a half here, that's for sure. I changed out of that. Well, we're going to wrap up. I want to thank you both, Jadine and Rick, for your work you've been doing first, then your willingness to share it with some of my folks who are watching this, and hopefully maybe reaching another 5 or 20 potential folks that can help that come through your program. We're going to, you can always watch more of our that's good, digital video town halls, that's a new word to make, at ltgov.vermont.gov if you want to watch past episodes, or on my Facebook page at VTLTGov. If you have other ideas you'd like us to cover, folks you want us to interview, throw us a quick note on our Facebook page. And thank you again. Thank you both for being with us.
Thanks, David.
You bet.